Now we're going to add the angle irons that would have joined these panels together in the corners to give them support. I'm going to zoom in and I'll go to the center panel again. At the top of my layer order, I will introduce a new sign. Now again, we're going to be using the dodge tool, which means whatever value we use is going to be some value of gray. I'm going to start with the marquee tool. Now I'm using the rectangle marquee tool. I'm going to hold a shift key and drag a random perfect square. I'm going to go to the swatch menu and I'm going to choose a value of gray again because I'm going to be using the dodge tool. I'll go with 30% again and I'll go ahead and fill that, Option Delete, and then Command D to deselect on the keyboard. Now what we could do initially here is go back to our layer window, and if we wanted to we could right click and choose Paste Layer Style to get started. Onto this gray box, I'm going to adjust them. I'll go over to the layer and I'll double click on Inner Glow, and I'm going to set the Inner Glow size for 15, and I'll set the opacity for 50, and then I'll click on Outer Glow and I'm going to change that to 2. Now I'm going to take the marquee and I'm going to cut this into a 90-degree angle. So I'll just click and drag across like so. And I'm just going to move this down to give it a little bit more thickness. And then when I hit delete, I'll be left with this angle shape. Now let's go over and let's put the bevel and emboss on as well. So I'm going to double click on the layer with the angle, or I'll go down to FX and I'll choose bevel and emboss. Now I want this to be an inner bevel, but I want it to be chiseled hard, and then I'm going to work on the size. I'll leave the depth 100% for now, but let's drag the size that down considerably, and I'm going to get rid of the smoothness. I'm going to zero that out. Okay, so I'm going to set the size for about, I'll set the size for 2, and then I'll go up to the depth, and I'll bump the depth up to about 200. And I'll hit Command S to save. So now we've got this angle iron that looks a little bit three-dimensional, but I want it to look like it's got some reflective content as if it were a piece of metal. So I'm going to start by making a selection of that shape. Now I'm going to hold down the Command key and I'm going to click on the thumbnail for that piece we just created. I think I'll name this angle iron. And now I'm going to go to Select, Modify, and Contract. Now I'm going to set this rather low. I'm going to start with 4 pixels. And I did that so that I'm not really going to, I'm trying to isolate where I want to paint with this. Now I'm going to get the Dodge and Burn tool. I'm going to start with the Burn tool, and I'm going to drop the exposure down to about 30% up here at the top of the option window, and I'm going to click and start to add some darker value in places as if this were metal with reflective light bouncing off of it. Once I've gone in and I've put a bit of this in, now I could hide my selection if I wanted to, and in doing so it gives me a better idea of what the edge is actually going to look like. So you can see it's starting to take on a kind of a flat metal quality. Now the last thing I want to do is I'm going to leave the selection on, but I'm going to change my tool, and I'm going to go to the Dodge tool, and I'll decrease the size of my Dodge tool to about the same size, maybe 15 pixels. I'll leave the exposure at 20, and I'm going to choose midtones. Now I'm going to click and drag in a number of places with that, and you'll see it starts to get brighter. So what we're doing here is we're trying to make this look like metal by adding the values that we would see reflecting off metal if it had a bit of a shine to it. Might go back to my Dodge tool one more time, and I think I'll define these edges a little bit more. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, Command S to save. Now the only last thing we want to do with this angle iron is put references where there might be nail holes. So I'm going to get my brush, and I'm going to use a hard edge brush. I'm going to make sure that my mode is normal, opacity 100%, and flow 100%. I'm going to reduce the size of the brush. I'm going to hit D on the keyboard because I want this to be solid black. Now I'm just going to go in and put a few references where there might be nail holes here, where it might be attached to the crate. And I'm going to save. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to populate the rest of these panels with these angle irons in each angle where the 45s are. I'm going to start by scaling this down, hold the shift key, make it considerably smaller. I'll get my move tool and put it in position. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add these, and I'll come back and we'll put the red arrow on the crate as well.